Hello and welcome to LBMC's latest webinar. Today we're going to talk about HITRUST, the I-1 assessment. First, let me tell you who I am. My name is Robyn Barton. I am a senior manager here in our IT assurance practice. I help co-lead our HITRUST and our SOC service lines. I'm a member of the HITRUST External Assessor Council as well as the Quality Subcommittee. Okay, let's jump right in. The new I-1 implemented Validated Assessment plus Certification. This was announced in December. It is the newest service offering and the second certification option from HITRUST. So what exactly is it? I'll tell you, it is a one-year certification option as opposed to the traditional HITRUST certification that is a two-year certification. This covers a static set of control requirements, 219 to be specific, and focuses only on the implementation maturity level. We'll dig into that a little bit on the next slide. So why? Why did HITRUST come out with this new option? Well, I'll tell you. So there's a market need, there's been a market need for a best practices assessment for situations that present moderate risk. Right? So if the traditional two-year certification, which is now called the R2, has been the industry gold standard of information security assessments, they've now introduced the silver standard, the I-1. Let's talk about how they are similar. First of all, you can do a readiness assessment on both of them. You can do it yourself, someone internal to your organization, or you can do it facilitated where you use an assessor firm such as LBMC to help you determine if you're ready to proceed with the validation process. And then, of course, you do validated assessments for both types. Those are done by an authorized external assessor organization. And of course, they both undergo the full HITRUST QA process. Everything utilizes my CSF tool, that is HITRUST's platform. Coming up next quarter, you can share reports, including your I-1 reports through the HITRUST results distribution system. And today you can share them, both types of reports, through the HITRUST Assessment Exchange. Now let's talk about how they're different. Again, the I-1 assessment requires less effort and time to complete compared to the R2 assessment. That's based on the fact that it's less requirements because it's a static set of requirements, and that you're only focusing on implementation instead of the other maturity levels. So what does that mean? If you're familiar with the traditional R2 certification, the assessor and the organization are going to evaluate themselves on policy, process, and implementation, optionally measured and managed, but certainly policy, process, and implementation. The I-1 assessment does not focus on policy or process and focuses only on implementation. Again, the length of time, the I-1 certification is a one-year certification. R2 is a two-year certification. It does require an interim assessment at the one-year mark, and that is a mini assessment, we'll call it. It's a random selection of 19 requirements plus any requirements that had corrective action plans. The control requirements in the I-1 are predefined and static. They do not vary based on the type of organization. The R2, everything is customized based on scoping factors. What type of organization you are, how much sensitive data you have, technical details about your environment, any regulatory factors you want to include, all of those things factor into creation of this customized assessment. Lastly, carve-outs. Carve-outs are allowed in an I-1 validated assessment, but are not permitted in the R2 assessments. So this means if you're using a service provider, such as a cloud service provider, it is included in your R2 assessment. It can be carved out, excluded in the new I-1 assessment. Okay, this table really covers everything that we just talked about, just kind of puts it in a summary form for you. These are the key things that I think are important to consider. Again, the number of control requirements, 219 versus variable. What we focus on is limited to implementation. Level of effort is moderate as compared to the high level of effort with the R2, the length of time, of course, and then the fourth party carve-outs. Ultimately, it comes down to what option is right for your organization. I think there are 5 factors to consider, so I'll go over what those are. The first one, number 1, client contractual requirements. Are you currently contracted to maintain HITRUST certification? If so, you should check with your client to ensure acceptance of the new I-1. Number 2 is timing. If you're just beginning your HITRUST journey, you can anticipate that you need time for some type of a readiness engagement, remediation efforts, and then time for any of these newly implemented controls to operate. The traditional, typical timeline that we see is anywhere from 12 to 18 months for the R2. Less requirements in the I-1, along with focusing only on implementation, likely means a quicker path to certification. Effort. Number 3, similar to timing, less to do equates to less effort in year 1. Keep in mind that the 1-year certification means that you're going to repeat the whole process again for second year, as opposed to the R2 certification, where you would only be doing an interim in year 2. Number 4 is budget. Initial costs for I-1 are likely to be lower given less requirements. However, given the need to re-perform it each year, a real comparison of cost should be factored based on 2 years of the I-1 versus 2 years of the R2 plus the interim. And then number 5 is consistency. Variability exists in the R2. If your organization picks up a new client and increases the records of sensitive information from 5 million records to 15 million records, that's a change in your scoping factors. Changing that means that the number of requirements that apply to you are probably going to change. Same thing if you add wireless or if you add BYOD. With the I-1, you know you'll have those same 219 requirements regardless of the specific details about your organization. I hope that was helpful for you. Just a quick introduction into the I-1 assessment. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm always here to help and love to talk to new organizations. Thank you so much. Have a great day.